Do you recall approving the sale of the equipment finance business to Hanmi Bank?
I do.
Do you recall KBW being the investment bankers for that?
I do.
And do you recall Mr. Bennett representing that he wasn't going to receive any compensation for that transaction?
I do.
Did you ask Mr. Bennett about his contract with KBW?
I don't recall that I did.
Did you ask Mr. Bennett if he was going to be compensated for the Hanmi Bank deal?
I don't believe I did.
Would it concern you to know that his contract provided for such compensation?
No foundation. Assumes facts.
How would I know that?
I'll show you the contract in a minute, but would it
Okay.
concern you that if he got compensation for the Hanmi Bank deal, after having represented to the committee that he wouldn't get compensation for that? Would that be of concern to you?
That would be an item I would want to know more about.
I'm handing you Exhibit 219, which is confidential separation agreement between Stifel Financial and Mr.
You know
Bennett.
something? This is one of those documents that got produced, so we aren't gonna. He's not gonna answer questions about this.
If you could turn to the last page. I haven't asked a question yet.
Yep.
Go turn to the last page.
You can turn to the next page.
Okay.
Well, first, at the first page, you can see the first page is agreement between Mr. Bennett and Stifel. Do you see that?
I instruct you not to answer that question.
Do you see that?
We have an agreement, counsel, that when I instruct him not to answer, he's not going to answer.
And if you could turn to page 3. And if you look at the top of the page, it says, on or about January 31, Bennett will receive a cash payment equivalent 2016. The equivalent 2016 will be equal to net revenue to investment banking received by the bank between January 1, 2016 and December 31, 2016, multiplied by the Bennett attribution, multiplied by the Bennett payout as indicated on Schedule C. Do you see that?
I'm just going to instruct him not to answer.
Less salary earned by Bennett. Do you see that?
Same instruction.
All right. Now let's turn to Schedule C at the back. And draw your attention to the middle of the page, mandated deals. For equivalent payment 2016 or equivalent payment 2017, and it lists the deals for which Mr. Bennett will receive compensation. And could you read the third line down?
Same instruction.
It says Banc of California, sell side. And then it goes on to say that the Bennett attribution will be 40% and the Bennett payout will be 20%. So do you see that Mr. Bennett, contrary to the representations he made to you on the governance committee, was actually going to receive, according to this contract, a payment for the Banc of California deal?
Same instruction, no foundation.
Mr. Schnell, are you concerned that Mr. Bennett may have lied to you?
I'm going to instruct you not to answer him. You're asking him based on a document that we are actively litigating and fighting about, so I'm going to instruct you not to answer that question.
Do you have any concerns about Mr. Bennett's continued role on the board?
Same instructions, same objections.
I'm asking if he has any concerns about Mr. Bennett's role on the board.
Based on what you just showed him?
I didn't say based on anything. I said, do you have any concerns about Mr. Bennett serving on the board as you sit here today?
You can exclude any of you think you might have based on this document
That's not my instruction. Do you have any concerns as you sit here today for Mr. Bennett to continue to serve on your board?
My instruction is, in answering that question, don't take anything in this document into account because it's improperly being used by counsel, as he well knows. So you can answer if you
As it stands here today, I don't have that concern.
Okay. Are you concerned that your lawyer is preventing you from looking at a document that shows Mr. Bennett engaged in fraud?
Counsel, that's just highly inappropriate. He's not going to answer that
He's not gonna
question.
answer
No, he's not.
that? Okay. Why didn't you ask Mr. Bennett for his compensation arrangement with KBW as part of the governance committee's review?
Man, you asked when or why?
Why not?
Okay.
My recollection was that was one of the topic areas that our legal department was reviewing,
You thought Mr. Grosvenor was taking care of that?
or someone on his staff. I don't know who specifically.
And did they report back to you on their results of what they were doing?
I believe that they.
You know what? I think that's privilege. It's not subject to any waiver. It's not part of the Winston waiver. I instruct you not to answer.
The governance committee concluded that there were no violations by Mr. Bennett, correct?
That's correct.
And the committee concluded that based in part on the information received from Mr. Grosvenor, correct?
That is correct.
So did Mr. Grosvenor report to you what he had learned from KBW?
I'm going to instruct him not to answer.
Did you instruct Mr. Grosvenor to obtain the compensation arrangement for Mr. Bennett? Asking for an instruction?
Yeah, I'm going to instruct him not to answer. It's privileged.
Did you understand that in
Filing?
general, part of his duties as a CEO was to certify the financial statements of the Banc of California, Inc.?
Vague and ambiguous is to certify the financial statements.
Right?
I mean, the CEO normally does that.
And you understand that in order for him to certify the financials, he had to be comfortable that the financial statements were accurate?
No foundation. Vague.
I'm not certain of that.
Do you think the CEO can certify financials without determining whether they're accurate or not?
Certified
No.
financials is vague.
No, I'm saying that the CEO will have a process by which to ultimately get comfortable that he or she can sign financial statements.
And you agree that if the CEO concludes, for example, that Halle Benett lied about the receiving compensation on the Handmade Bank deal, that would be an issue for the CEO to certify the financials, correct?
But hold on. Assumes facts, no foundation, calls for speculation.
Joined.
Can you repeat it?
If the CEO had concluded that Halle Benett lied to the bank, you would agree that that would cause the CEO to not want to certify the financial statements, correct?
No foundation, assumes facts, calls for speculation, overbroad.
I'm not certain of that.
You think the CEO could certify the financials if the CEO felt there was a false statement in it?
A false statement in the financials?
Yeah, can you be more
Overbroad.
specific?
Do you think the CEO could certify financials if the CEO knew there was a false statement in the financials?
Overbroad, calls for a legal conclusion.
I'm not sure about that level of detail.
You don't know as a director, as you sit here today, whether the CEO has to be satisfied that the financials are accurate before certifying them?
No.
2:30.
see that, sir?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm sorry.
All right. And it's an excerpt of it, so I'm going to turn you to page, the fourth page of this excerpt, which says page 181.
What's the date I'm looking for?
This is the 10K that
Okay.
was issued in 2017.
Okay. And which page?
If you look at the front page, I want you to satisfy yourself on the date.
Okay. Yeah, I see at
Upper
the
left-hand
bottom.
corner, annual report for fiscal year 2016. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is the 10K that was issued for that fiscal year. Do you see that, sir?
Yeah.
All right, turning to page 181, underwriting services. Draw your attention to the second sentence in underwriting services. Halle Benett, a director of the company and the bank, was employed as a managing director and head of Diversified Financials Group at Keefe, Bruyette and Woods until August 31, 2016, and is entitled to receive compensation for certain deals that closed subsequent to August 31 that he originated or actively managed, none involving the company or the bank. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, that statement is not accurate, correct?
Hold on.
I don't
No,
know.
No foundation assumes facts.
Do you believe that statement to be accurate? Or you don't know?
The statement in the in the 10K?
Yeah.
No foundation. Calls for speculation. As far as you know, is that true?
Yes, I believe it is.
Counsel, you can do redirect later. You don't have to ask the question. I think you know that. You believe this statement is true despite the document I showed you today that your counsel wouldn't let you answer about?
Yeah, counsel, that is it just double down
You can
on some
instruct him. You can instruct him not to
inappropriate
answer.
conduct. That
You can
whole
instruct him
subpoena
not to
issue
answer.
is one I would be surprised that you want to even keep bringing up. So I ask you and instruct you, sir, that in answering your question, you should not pay any attention to the document that counsel improperly put in front of you. Do you have any reason? No, go ahead.
So can you?
You agree that Mr. Sugarman could not have certified these financials if he knew that this statement was inaccurate?
Calls
I don't
for
know what Sugarman knew.
Sorry?
I don't know what Steve Sugarman knew.
I'm not asking if you knew what he knew. I'm saying that
That's
you
what you
agree.
said.
You agree that Mr. Sugarman could not have certified these financials if he believed that statement to be untrue.
Well, you're
Paul-
asking me to speculate
Mr.
on.
Schnell?
Sorry.
yeah.
Do you believe the
Calls for
CEO?
speculation, incomplete hypothetical assumes facts.
Do you believe he could sign the financials if he knew that statement were untrue?
I've
Same
already answered that
objections.
question.
No, you haven't. We haven't. We've been having objections back and forth. So I need an answer to that question. Do you believe Mr. Sugarman could have signed these financials if he knew that statement or believed that statement to be untrue?
Assumes facts, no foundation.
I
Calls
don't
for-
know. I don't want to speculate. You can answer. I just need an answer.
Let me get my objection on the record, please. No foundation, assumes facts, calls for speculation.
Okay?
I'm not sure.
Are you concerned that your lawyer is preventing you from looking at a document that shows Mr. Bennett engaged in fraud?